They've been the best all year and now matching up. Matthew, how are you feeling about these matchups?
I think they're good matchups. I mean, even though it's not maybe great for the sport per se, that we don't have maybe an 8 seed or a 7 seed or a 10 seed, I mean, even a 14 seed in the Final Four. I mean, we get to see best on best. And I know people love the upset, people love stuff like that, but we're going to see the best of the best go against each other. And I think it'll be really good. We'll see star players, we'll see lottery picks really battling it out, and see who comes out on top. So, it's not bad for the sport. If it were to happen year after year, I'd say that it'd lose its specialness. But, I think it'll be great matchups and it'll be great games to watch.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And I think it's just been, even though the Final Four ended up being the ones, we just really didn't see that Cinderella story that we're used to. Usually someone's going to go off and make it happen. Arkansas was probably the closest as a 10 seed, and maybe McNeese as a 12, but even then they only got past the first round. So it just felt like we didn't really have that magical story that, all the headlines, these Jack Golke type players you're going to remember forever. It just didn't quite happen this year, Nick. So do you think that this is bad for the sport, or do you think maybe it's just a one-off? We just had some really good teams this year.
Yeah, I want to point out how you said it wasn't just the Final Four, first of all. This is the first time since 2017 where a 13, 14, 15, or 16 hasn't won a game. And it's the first time since 2007, I believe, that 11 or lower has not made it to the Sweet 16. So aside from just all the ones in the Final Four, it's also been kind of a dead tournament in terms of upsets from the very start. So I think, like you said, it's going to be a very fun Final Four. This is going to set up the 4 best teams in college basketball going up against each other. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm also kind of disappointed that we didn't see any of those St. Peter's, Oakland, those teams like that have just sort of captured what March Madness is really all about. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair because when I made my bracket, I did a ton of upsets. I was like, this year, this one's going to be enough, this one's going to do it. And then all of a sudden, it's just all the 1 seeds, and it's all no upsets hardly at all. And I'm like, okay, it is what it is. But end of the day, like you guys said, we have some great matchups, and that's what I want to talk about next. Number 1, Auburn. Number 1, Florida. It's going to be a good one. How are you guys feeling about this matchup, Nick? I'll start with you.
This is going to be a fantastic game. Both of these teams, I think, have different strengths.
Yes.
Auburn, they played through Johnny Broome. He is one of the best players in the country, especially on the inside. In that Elite 8 game for Auburn, he shot 10 of 13 at 77%. The whole rest of the team only made 16. That's only 6 more than he had at 33%. So that just shows how important he is to this Auburn team. And if they're going to get this win, he is really going to have to be on his game. I know he's dealing with that injury, so that's also going to be something to monitor, whether or not he is able to play at 100%. But if he's able to be who we've seen him be, then I think Auburn has a really good chance in this game. And for Florida, I think it's all about the guards. Walter Clayton Jr., Elijah Martin, Will Richard. These guys are they've been so good for Florida. Clayton coming off that 30-point game in the Elite 8. So I think the teams have different strengths, and whichever one of those strengths is better, like whether or not Florida's guards can step up or Johnny Broome himself can step up, I think that is going to determine who wins this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. And if I'm not mistaken, Florida is the number one seed, basically overall. And we've seen, a lot of people pick them to be the champion. But Walter Clayton really saved them, I would say, at the end of that last game. Texas Tech and UNT legend Grant McCasland looked like they were going to get that upset and punch their ticket to the Final Four, but his ability to show up in the clutch, Clayton, it was absolutely incredible. There's some shots he was just heaving it up, and it was like, no way that goes in, and it did.
It's crazy.
But, truly, that's not the game that Florida fans, I think, wanted to see. It got a little bit scary there at the end. In the end, they came through, and they're here. So, Matthew, how do you think they adjust off of that game and really lock in for this big-time matchup against Auburn?
I agree with what you said. I don't think Florida can rely on 13 threes
exactly.
and just heaving up from 35-plus feet. One thing that is really important in this game is Auburn, out of all their main teams, has the worst rebounding rate out of everyone, and Florida has the best. Alex Condon is the leading rebounds for their team. So I think he's going to play a huge factor. If Johnny Broome isn't 100% healthy, I don't see a lot of winning routes for Auburn. They can win. Anything can happen. It's still March Madness, even though it hasn't been a very mad one, if you will say. But I think Florida, if they rely to their bread and butter, do the dirty work right, get in the paint, rebound the ball, I see a lot more paths to victory for them opposed to Auburn.
Yeah, so do I. So let's predict it. Nick, how are you feeling on this one?
I got to agree with you, Matthew. I'm 100% going Florida in this one. I think their guards are just going to be a little bit too much. Like you said, I don't know if it's going to be like it was in the last game, but I think that all these guys are just going to be too much for Auburn. Their strength lies in Johnny Broome, who's a great player in the paint, but these Florida guards are just going to be so good from behind the arc and from the mid-range and just doing what they do best, and I think it's just going to be too much.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree as well. Florida obviously didn't have their best showing in that last game, but I mean, as much as you don't want to rely on that clutch performance, it shows that they're a championship team, in my opinion. To me, a championship team needs that clutch performance, needs that ability to go out there despite everything and still find a way to win. And Florida did that. So I think that they will find a way to win this game. But going on to the next matchup, Duke and Houston, another two very different teams. You know, Houston, a very good defensive team. You know, I think there's been a lot of critics of them, whether it's like maybe they can, you know, maybe this will be the year. Some saying, no, you know, they're not going to do it. But Duke obviously has just been dominant all season long with Cooper Flagg. So this one, it's going to be an interesting matchup. Nick, how are you feeling about it?
I mean, I cannot get over how good Cooper Flagg is. Really. This guy is incredible, one of the best players in the country. But he's not the only one for Duke. Con Knipple, I think, kind of goes under the radar. He's been so good for them, 14 points per game this season. Tyrese Proctor is a fantastic guard for them as well. I think this Duke team, while Cooper Flagg is incredible, and I just said I love watching him, they're more than just him. And I think that some of their other players deserve some recognition as well. And I just think that they're going to be a little too much for this Houston team. I mean, they showed how great they can be defensively, holding Tennessee to just 50 points and 15 in the first half against Tennessee. But I just think Duke is going to be too much for them.
Yeah, all right, Matthew. Houston, Duke, I think it's like we said, it's almost like a David versus Goliath when it's 2-1 seeds. It just doesn't feel right just with the different styles. But do you think that Houston will have the ability to at least, you know, kind of keep this close and maybe pull off an upset?
You know, I actually do believe Houston is going to pull off an upset. I know that's crazy. It sounds Duke's favored by 5.5 points. I mean, this matchup is literally battle of styles.
Yes.
I mean, it may be cliche, but what's going to give? It's the number one scoring offense versus the number one scoring defense, and it's the number one offense in Ken Pom and number one defense in Ken Pom. So that'd be interesting to say. I mean, Duke has been such good. They're averaging like 92 points in the tournament, I believe. That's crazy. But one thing that is also cliches. Defense wins championships. I mean, you look at Houston's opponents in the first round, SIUE, they averaged 71.6. They scored 40. I know that's not impressive, but going out to the other rounds, Gonzaga, they averaged 86.6. They only scored 76. Purdue averages 77.3. They only scored 60. And probably the most impressive, a team in the SEC as well, that's just such a hard conference this year, Tennessee averages 77, and they gave up 50. I mean, one way has to give. Yep. Who's going to score more? Who's going to score less? And for the first time in Houston's history, I believe they have the best offense to complement their amazing defense. So I believe Houston's going to do the dirty work. I think they're going to get to the balls quicker than Duke will. And I mean, can you stop Cooper Flagg? Yep. Let's be real. I mean, he's Duke's best player. They're very well rounded. They're the number one team for a reason. But can you stop Cooper Flagg? And honestly, believe Houston has what it takes to do it.
Okay, yeah, and that's the big question because we've seen, you know, Houston, they've been really a good team throughout this entire season, the last few years, really. And I did have them finally making it to the Final Four this year, which they did. But for me, like you said, defense wins championships, yes. You know, I know we say that a lot, mixed feelings on that statement. But to me, superstars win games. And I think that Cooper Flagg and this Duke team, it's a super team. And I think that it's just going to be too much for Houston. Nick, how are you feeling?
I completely agree with you. Like I said, I mean, Duke has such a great team on top of Cooper Flagg, guys like Con Knipple and Tyrese Proctor, like I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. But like you said, I mean, if Houston's going to do it, then it's going to come down to their defense. They're going to have to do a good job of keeping those Duke players in check, keeping them probably below 80 points, I would say, if they're going to win this one. And like you said, I think Houston does have a better offense than they've had in years past. So if there's any year for Houston to do it and pull off this upset, I think it is this year. But I do think that Duke is just going to have a little too much. It'll be close to the end, but I think Duke ends up pulling it out.
Yep, so we just have a little bit of time left. So next time we're on SportsZone, obviously it's going to be over with the National Championship on Monday. So I got to hear it. National Championship predictions. Matthew, starts off.
I got Houston and Florida in the championship. Obviously, like I just said, I have Florida overcoming Houston despite their amazing defense. So I got Florida winning by double digits as well.
Okay, all right, Nick, who you got?
I am going to go with Florida as well. I think that they are just such a well-rounded team, especially at the guard position. I think that their guards are just going to go off in both of their Final Four games, assuming they do win against Auburn. I think that they're just going to go crazy. Walter Clayton Jr., we saw how good he can be against Texas Tech in that comeback, and hopefully for their sake, it won't have to be in a comeback. They'll be able to just run away with the game behind the back of guys like Clayton, Martin, and Richard, and I think it's going to be good for Florida.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Florida-Duke, but I got to go with the Blue Devils. You know, this is not a team I picked at the beginning, honestly. I didn't expect. I felt like it was too much hype, but they've really shown up in the moment, so I got to take Duke. But we got to take you guys over to UNT basketball and talk about the NIT tournament.
Craving something fresh, flavorful, and made just for you? Look no further than Avesta, your go-to destination for a delicious, full-service dining experience. Dive into our customizable omelets, expertly crafted by our talented cook Jonathan, who guarantees every bite is perfection. All our dishes are handmade, prepared with only the freshest ingredients. Explore our assembly line where you can choose from any of our globally inspired dishes or customize your plate. It's that easy. And let's not forget dessert. Indulge your sweet tooth with treats from Clark Bakery. With convenient payment methods including card or flex, it's the perfect dining spot for any occasion. Quench your thirst with our wide selection of drinks. Just hand your drinking card to our friendly waiter, and they'll bring your beverage of choice right to your table. When you're done savoring every last bite, our attentive staff will whisk away your tray. Enjoy the peaceful ambiance as you dine in, or use our takeout option for a meal on the go. Avesta.
Has this ever happened to you?
My bike! My bike is gone!
Stolen bikes are an epidemic sweeping college campuses across America.
What am I supposed to do?
It's quite simple. The We Mean Green Fund has partnered with the UNT Police Department to offer free bike locks to any UNT student with a bike. Just show up with your bike in tow and ask.
Now I'll never lose my bike ever again.
Enough worrying. Get your bike lock today.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, joined by Timothy, Scott, and Josh Ortega. And now we're going to talk some UNT basketball. UNT has had another pretty strong run in the NIT tournament for the second time in 3 years, advancing to the Final Four. But unfortunately, their story did end against UC Irvine in a 69-67 loss on Tuesday. That was a tough one. You know, I think of the game that they were completely in. You know, obviously they were doing great in the first half, and it just felt like it sort of started to slip away. Timothy, how did you feel about that game?
It was a heartbreaker for sure. As Mean Green people, you want to see your team win all the time. However, UC Irvine showed that they were the best team in that tournament. They were given that 1 seed for a reason. They were resilient. They shot well. They outplayed us down low and just played a really great basketball game overall and showed that they're the best team in this tournament.
Yep, Josh.
Yeah, I think it was really a tough game at the end of the day. You know, UNT shot 5 of the 21 on layups, and those are high percentage shots. And when you're shooting 30% from the field and beyond the arc, it's definitely tough to win a game. And especially, they were leading 26 minutes of this game. UC Irvine was only tied for 6 minutes and leading for 6 minutes. So when you're trying to push a lead, it's really hard when those layups are not going in. Yeah,
I was watching that game, and I was just getting frustrated because over and over again, these layups just popping out, and it just feels like, you know, UNT has gotten by, you know, in so many close games. I was at the Oklahoma State game last week. That was incredible. But at the end, I mean, they almost choked that one away too. You know, all these games, they were winning by 2 points. This one, they lost by 2 points, and it just felt like their luck sort of ran out, you know, if that makes sense. How are you feeling on that one?
Yeah, it was like Josh said, it was the bigs play. Like, Sissoko and Lorien, both guys average 8, 11 a game, had I think 4 and 6, something like that. And that's not to say they weren't getting rebounds. We had plenty of offensive rebounds, tons of second chance opportunities, but we just weren't capitalizing on any of them. So as much as our guards could do, if the bigs weren't playing, our offense doesn't run. And you saw it happen to us late in that game.
Yep, and it was just tough, but it just felt like sort of the epitome of the season in a way, you know, being so close in all these games. And they made it pretty far. You know, I'm not going to sneeze at a Final Four run. It is the NIT, but still, they really did put on a good show for quite a few games there. But in the end, they just come up a bit short. Josh, how do you feel, and just looking back at this season as a whole?
Honestly, it's kind of hard because at the end of the day, you know, they were so close to winning the conference championship, right? Finished second in the conference in the league standings regular season this year. And then you get knocked out in the NIT in the Final Four. It's tough, but it's hard not to sit here and say it wasn't a success. You finished 27-9, a lot of winning basketball, a lot of winning moments, right? Winner against Oregon State, beating Minnesota, a lot of high moments this year. So I can't sit here and honestly say that it wasn't a success. It was a success.
Yeah, okay. Timothy, how are you feeling?
I feel very similar. Ross Hodge had a great second year as a head coach for us. He showed that he's a winning basketball coach. His style, his play, what he'd done the past 8 years at our program really worked well. And just the team as a whole, they were fun. It was exciting to go to games. The players really loved the fans. They really loved to play for each other. And it was a really fun season and a really good one to finish 27-9.
Yeah, it was a great season, and I did enjoy it, but I think that right there is the biggest loss. You know, not the UC Irvine game, but Coach Ross Hodge.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this was his second year as the head coach. Had been here for quite a few years as an assistant under McCasland. And it's tough to see another great coach go. I mean, here, 8 seasons total, 6 as an assistant, NIT champs obviously in 2023, and 135-65 overall record. Ross Hodge has been an incredible coach, you know, throughout the whole time, but obviously as he took over as a head coach, he was everything that UNT hoped he would be. You know, losing McCasland to Texas Tech, he stepped in to that role, and it's been special with him because the team's changed a lot. I mean, there were only 2 players left from that 2023 NIT run, but he found a way through transfers, through young players developing. He found a way to keep this team not only relevant, but very successful. So to me, that's the biggest loss. I'll ask you, Josh, how do you feel about obviously his tenure as a whole, but losing him now to West Virginia?
You know, when I look back on it, it's a lot of success, right? A lot of high moments. And when honestly, I could sit here and talk about numbers and just spit out 17 different ways to talk about how big this move is. When I think of him, I think of culture, right? You think about him, you know, not only setting the attendance record last year, but then getting second highest this year. Overall, I really love the culture, and being around this team towards the end of the season, you really see it in these guys. So much turnover this offseason with so many players going to big-time programs. Overall, I love that this team was so together this season, and you really saw that, and it starts with the coaching. So, look, Ross Hodge is going to do great things in Morgantown. It sucks he's not going to be here next season.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to put it because, like you said, with the players, I mean, the amount of players, Jason Edwards, Aaron Scott, I mean, all these players playing in the NCAA tournament. We've seen what he does for development. And this team, it was brand new, but they made a Final Four run in the NIT, and it was really exciting to watch. Timmy, how do you feel about his tenure as a whole, and how big of a loss is this?
This is quite the significant loss for the program, but his tenure was just spectacular. I mean, North Texas was in the bottom dwellers of the Sun Belt when he walked in. And they came out on the top of the American. That's something that, like, I don't care who you are, that is an impressive feat. And so for him, it's a big loss for the university. Obviously, we encourage him to do great things at West Virginia, and we thank him for what he's done for the program. But a lot of success here, and it was just, he really brought the fans back into Mean Green basketball. You know, got the students involved with the Maniacs, and just brought, like you said, the culture of the program way up, and brought investment into the program way back up.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's special with the Maniacs, just the way he and the players come up after every win, you know, just that hype, that excitement. He truly did help bring that back. So now we do, you know, I thank Coach Hodge for sure. It's been really a great run, but for now we are turning the page, and that's going to be Daniel Robinson. Obviously, the former Cleveland State coach, he comes in here, and it's a new hire. You know, this is for the first time in a while that it's completely outside, completely new. So, Josh, how are you feeling about Robinson as the new head coach of this team?
You know, when looking at it, it's like you're looking at similarities, and one of the biggest similarities is defense. Cleveland State was top 40 in defense scoring. We were top 3. Obviously, that was the big stat that we were really high on this year. Overall, a lot of defensive awareness. They lead. They're really heavy on rebounds. They were really big this season. And look, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow because you're like, oh, you're losing Ross Hodge, and you won't really know for the rest of the way how this is going to play out. We won't know for a year. We won't know for a couple months. But overall, a lot of similarities, a lot of things that I like for it. And honestly, I feel like even though saying defense wins championship is kind of tough right now, a little sore subject, I feel like it's going to be a big move.
Yeah, I think it will be. And that's definitely something that the whole program has prided itself on, is defense. And that's something that, you know, I think continuing that is going to be very important. He's already brought in some transfers, you know, players making their commitments to UNT. So it's good to see stuff happening quickly. But I'll ask you, Timmy, how are you feeling about this hire as a whole? And do you think that Robinson is the right guy to lead this program going forward?
It's a good hire. Robinson's the guy we need. Like you said, defensive focus. That's the only way we're ever going to be competitive, right? But he brings in his transfers, a lot of these guys from Cleveland State. They had a lot of success there, 3 straight 21 seasons. So this guy's proven he's a winner as a head coach, even though he's young. And I think he's a great fit to lead the program. You know, he kind of resembles the embodiment of what North Texas basketball is, and that's change. We've had a lot of change in the last 4 years, roster, coaching, et cetera. And Robinson hopefully brings a stable point for us, but he's kind of been that embodiment of change, but winning change. Change that's good for us, that benefits the program in the long run.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to put it. Obviously, there's a lot of other candidates out there. You know, some people wanted an internal hire. I'll ask you, Josh, was there anyone else that you would have preferred over Robinson, or do you think that this really was the right pick for UNC?
You know, when you look at the numbers, I think it really was the right pick.
Okay.
Just because it kind of fits, like you said,
Yeah.
it fits what we want to do.
It
right?
feels
It just
right,
feels
huh?
right. It feels comfortable. It's like putting on new shoes, right? Maybe you want to get a new pair of Air Forces or something, and maybe you switch over to a pair of Converse. It's not really going to be the same. You know, probably look a little bit better, but overall, at the end of the day, I just feel like it fits the right way.
Okay, Timmy, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it, like you said, fits the right way, plays winning basketball, has a lot of flair. You know, he's young. As a young coach, he's got a lot of flair, bringing excitement to the program, and I think that's exactly what we need is some flair, some excitement going into the next season. It'll be a good hire for us.
Yeah, I truly do hope so, because this program, I mean, UNT basketball, it really has transformed over the last few years. You know, like you said, it's really come to new heights. I mean, looking at this team being competitive, they won, obviously, an NCAA tournament game against Purdue a few years back. So we've had a legacy of great coaches, and I really do hope that Robinson can continue that tradition. But for us, we're going to continue and move forward into NFL free agency recap.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounced checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me.
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
There's no harm in wanting to have fun while in college, but it's easy to lose track of how much you've had. Apps like Drink Control and Alkadroid can help keep track of your consumption and blood alcohol levels. If you or someone else does drink too much, the signs of alcohol poisoning are as follows: pale skin, vomiting, confusion, low body temperatures, irregular breathing, blacking out, and is hard to wake up or cannot be woken up.
Dude, are you okay? Hey, what's wrong? Wake up.
It's an exciting time of year, but it's important to be responsible. If you suspect someone is suffering from alcohol poisoning, get help immediately. You will not get in trouble for seeking help if you are underage. For more info and resources, go to UNT's Division of Student Affairs.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm joined once again by Josh Ortega and Rohan Srinivasan. We've talked a lot of basketball today, but we're going to bring it over to the NFL and recap free agency. It was obviously an incredible and wild period. You know, lots of stuff going on throughout the league, lots of big signings, lots of big trades as well. So, Rohan, I'll let you start us off.
Sure.
What do you think was the biggest signing or trade that happened so far?
Has to be Josh Allen, right? I mean, he has the most guaranteed money of any player in NFL history. That says something, and he's a proven quarterback. And I really like the move, not as a Cowboys fan, but Bill's organization, right? You got to sign him, and he has the most guaranteed money. But Cooper Kupp, Sam Darnold are also surprising moves, and now Sam Darnold finally has somebody to pass it to. So I really like that move. But let's talk about the Cowboys. They now have a backup quarterback. At around 9 a.m. this morning, we traded, or we got, Joe Milton, and we traded a 7th-round pick, and we also got we got a 7th-round pick, and then we traded our 5th. So let's talk about him.
Yeah, so that's the breaking news here. Joe Milton obviously comes over along with that 7th-round pick in exchange for a 5th. And this is something, we had heard some rumors about it, swirling around. I wasn't sure how legit, how true it'd be, but it did happen. So Joe Milton, obviously, new backup quarterback in Dallas. Josh, how are you feeling about this move?
Well, as somebody who watched Joe Milton's debut being a Bills fan and watched him absolutely cook our second-string defense, overall, the guy can throw an orange 100 yards, and he's got an absolute cannon of an arm. So there's a lot to like there, obviously, in terms of the just raw strength and talent. Hopefully you can kind of bring him up and have him be a little bit more cleaner. The interceptions in college were a little bit forcing the ball downfield. A little Josh Allen-esque. But overall, it's an okay move. You get your backup quarterback.
Yeah, and I think that's how I feel too. It sort of reminds me of the Trey Lance move a few years ago. Yeah. I mean, it just feels like a young, mobile, strong-arm quarterback that you're banking on, here to be. But it's like, where does he fit?
Yeah.
I mean, he's your backup now. It's like, do you want him to take over one day?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting investment. He was a 6th round pick. You give up a 5th. I don't know. I don't hate it, obviously. You know, you're giving up a 5th round pick.
I mean, a
but
lot of fans love the move, Steven. It was
I
actually.
don't know. I just wonder how impactful it is in the end.
It's just that the reason why we're reacting to this is because it's not a typical Cowboys move. We finally made a good trade for once. And Cooper Rush is gone, and he's our backup. We have no plans of making him a starter over Dak Prescott because, please, he is not better than Dak Prescott. But as a backup, sure, he's serviceable and he can do the job.
Yeah, I don't mind it. And like you said, Cooper Rush obviously signed with the Ravens. Trey Lance has left as well. So, yeah, I don't mind it, you know, but I think to me, it's sort of the epitome of what the Cowboys do. They make a lot of small moves here and there, and I don't know. They've made a few other trades. Kyrie Elam, Kenneth Murray coming in. All these moves, they're solid. You know, I don't mind them, but I just don't know if it's really taking me to where I want to be as a Cowboys fan and to that next level. Josh, how do you feel about these moves and overall the Cowboys moves in free agency?
I mean, trading for Kyrie Elam was one thing. Like, you know, as a Bills fan, I watched him for what 4 years, and I was really high on him. You know, talking about getting the playbook on the plane when he was drafted. Just really, at the end of the day, you know, when you look at everybody else and all the moves they're making, it's not moving the needle, right? The NFC is basically, I don't want to say wide open because you get so many good teams in the NFC, but look, there are spots to make the playoffs. There are spots to make runs in the postseason. But with these moves, Miles Sanders, who hasn't been relevant since Philadelphia, he went to Carolina and then just lost his spot to Chuba Hubbard, right? Javonte Williams at running back, who honestly I think hasn't really been that great since tearing his ACL and PCL at that angry run against Dallas. Like, these moves are great if you're filling depth, but like, you're also not re-signing your guys. Lose, you know, DeMarcus Lawrence to Seattle, and then there's some shots coming back with that. So, look, at the end of the day, this conference is at a point where you can make the playoffs and you can make a run. But if you're going to do it with making these moves, unless you're going to make a splash in the draft, I don't see how that works.
I also think it's important to point out that we did have a lot of guys out last season, so they have to step up this year. But in terms, you're right. You know, it's always typical Cowboys moves. Nothing on that transaction report sticks out to me.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part because you had a lot of losses. I mean, looking just down the list, Jordan Lewis, Chauncey Golston, DeMarcus Lawrence, Rico Dowdle, a big one, Brandon Cooks as well. Yeah. And I just feel like that's a pretty, you know, those are some significant names. And you bring in guys like, you brought back Dante Fowler, Solomon Thomas. These are some good names. You know, I don't hate it. Dante Fowler, if you believe, was the richest free agent signing by the Cowboys at $6 million per year since Greg Hardy in 2015. So it just shows the Cowboys' really unwillingness to spend big in free agency, and they prove it again. One move I did like, re-signing Oso Odigizua. You brought back Brian Anger, Kavonte Turpin. You brought back some of your guys, which you do. You know, the Cowboys like their guys, but I feel like the losses and the new additions, I don't know if it's enough to really take this team to the next level.
You know what they're also missing? An extension from Michael Parsons.
Yeah,
you get that done, I believe that your team is in a great spot. Again, typical Cowboys move. Jerry has to always wait for some reason, Steven and Josh. Like, I don't get it. What is the point of waiting?
Yep.
He is a star player, and I know that there are rumors right now that he is getting the highest non-QB paid contract, but at the end of the day, like, they're just rumors, so I'm not going to believe any of that until I actually see it. So you extend him, you're good.
Yep, I agree, and we'll see. And just, you know, the conflict with his agent, all that stuff going on, it's just a lot of baggage. But I want to get away from the Cowboys for a minute and just kind of take a big picture look. Josh, I'll start with you. What do you think, or who do you think, whether team or player, was the biggest winner of this free agency period?
Let's go to Chicago. You know, revamping their offensive line, giving Caleb Williams a really good offensive line, bringing in plenty of starters. Look, Ben Johnson's their head coach. What do you have success with in Detroit? A very good offensive line. Penei Sewell, Frank Ragnow, rebuilding that in Chicago. Give him a good offensive line from the kid from SC, and let's see what he can do. He was sacked so many times last year, escaping pressure. I really like this move for Chicago, and I think it sets up their offense so well. They already have the pieces. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, I think will take a huge step in year 2. I'm excited for them.
Yeah.
I also think Chicago, I completely agree with you. The team that is the complete opposite of that is the 49ers.
Yeah.
They are so injury depleted. I mean, I don't know what they do at this point. And with the trade of Debo, Christian McCaffrey's still injured. What are you going to do now? You were such a Super Bowl contender. Now going into this year, can they even make the playoffs?
Yeah,
that's the question.
Yeah, truly, there were so many moves, and there's going to continue to be some, obviously, as we get closer and closer to the draft. But for now, we're going to move over and talk about some of the biggest sports controversies this week.
Looking to open a free checking or savings account but don't know where to start? Check out DebtQ Credit Union right here on campus. Get your Mean Green debit card instantly or apply for a DebtQ Visa credit card today. Your school, your card. Plus, make deposits at their 24/7 ATM, checks or cash whenever you need it. Make sure to sign up for DebtQ's online banking platform and mobile app for easy access anytime, anywhere. Visit them at www.datq.org to learn more. DatQ, the official financial institution of UNT Athletics.
Hey you! Yeah, you. Tax day is right around the corner, and the IRS has free resources to help you. Just visit their website or contact our volunteer income tax program at 800-906-9887. You don't want the IRS knocking at your door. Whew, I guess it's too late for you. Pay now or pay later with interest. File your taxes.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm joined by Jack Shrupsha and Sean Hunley, and we're going to talk about some of the biggest sports controversies going on this week. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of stuff going on around multiple leagues, and I want to start with baseball and the Yankees and their torpedo bats. This has been a story that's sort of taken over Major League Baseball, and it's been insane what this is. Been for the Yankees. Just looking at some of these stats, they swept Milwaukee in their opening series, won by a combined score of 36-14, scored 20 runs in Game 2 alone, with 15 home runs total in that 3-game series. So, yeah, there's something going on here. I guess, I'm not sure if we think it's fair or not, but that's what I want to ask you guys. Sean, how are you feeling about all this, and do you think that this is a problem for baseball?
Absolutely not. I love it. I mean, I think it's kind of been one of the best things for hitters. I mean, we've seen how the MLB has really transitioned to kind of helping their pitchers out. They're throwing, there's a pitch clock, they're taking away the spider tack just to kind of maybe give the batters an advantage, but still they're very much concerned with the pitching. So, I mean, I think this kind of gives the hitters another advantage. I mean, the whole thing with the torpedo bat is it's actually been around for the past 2 years. You just haven't seen it with a lot of people. It's been with Giancarlo Stanton, which helped the Yankees get to the World Series. It's been with Francisco Lindor and a couple of other players. But the thing is, the big shift is that it just moves all that weight on the edge of the bat to more where the hitter has the most contact. Yep. So I think with that, it really gives your batters a chance to maybe hit it in the sweet spot instead of maybe hitting it on the very edge or at the kind of right there where your hand meets the handle. So it's just, I don't really see an issue with it. I think it really gives the batters a chance to maybe shine again, maybe something that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's completely legal, just to make that clear. It is the same weight. It's just redistributed, like you said, on that sweet spot. And I think that what you said about Giancarlo Stanton is a huge point because a lot of people didn't know, like you said, he used this during his incredible playoff run last season. So clearly it's worked for a lot of these guys. Jack, how are you feeling about this? And do you think this is good or bad for baseball?
I mean, I absolutely agree with what Sean said there. I mean, I think this is great for views. Makes the games more exciting. And I mean, I think unless the MLB starts turning into like NFL scores, I think this is great for them. And as the torpedo bats grow in popularity, excited to see what the league's going to be looking like. But really excited to see as this continues and as it ramps up with more and more players probably starting to use it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch. Already some Rangers players, Jock Peterson, Josh Smith, put in an order for one among a lot of other players throughout the leagues.
Ellie De La Cruz.
Yep, Ellie De La Cruz. And it worked for him, it seems like, in that Rangers game. So it's definitely been impactful, and it's going to be interesting to monitor to see how this continues to impact the game. Obviously, the Yankees, they did score 20 in that game. That's almost a football score. So, yeah, it's going to be definitely interesting to watch how this continues to go forward. But into football, I want to talk about the NFL and the tush push. This is something obviously the Eagles made famous a couple years back, and they've just continued to dominate with it. I mean, just pounding it down the one with Jalen Hurts. I mean, their conversion rate is incredible, whether it's fourth downs, QB sneaks for a touchdown. I mean, just looking at some of these stats, 39 for 48 last season on fourth down conversions, either trying to get it fourth down or in the end zone. It's been incredible what they've done. Obviously, there's some movement, though, to ban this now. It has been tabled until May 20th for the spring meetings, but so far, 16 out of the 32 teams, that's half, are in favor of this. You obviously need the 3/4 to actually get it banned, but I don't know. I don't think it should be banned. I'm not sure. How are you guys feeling? Sean, do you think this is dangerous or bad for the game?
No.
Thank you.
How many injuries have you seen from the tush push? I mean, the biggest advantage the Eagles have, their ability to the lineman to drop lower than the other lineman.
Yep.
I mean, that's really the biggest advantage. And I mean, if you look at the stats, the tush push was used 0.28% of all plays in the NFL during the regular season. So, I mean, really, the Bills and the Eagles have been the only teams to really perfect it. But, I mean, by far the Eagles, they have an advantage, a perfectly legal advantage that is causing no harm.
And it's also, allowing, a more anytime touchdowns if you're a prize picks kind of guy. But, I mean, still, I don't see an issue with it, and I don't see the reason why you should ban something like this if it works. I mean, just because you can't stop it doesn't mean it has to be banned.
Yeah, like you said, I think Saquon fantasy owners, another group that's not a huge fan of this. But yeah, overall, I think the Eagles have just shown that they're bigger, they're stronger, they have an incredible center, whether it was Jason Kelsey, Cam Jurgens now, they have perfected this. And like we said, anyone can do it. It's just no one can do it as good as Philadelphia. Jack, how do you feel about the tush push?
I feel like it's just another football play. I mean, you saw Jalen Hurts squatting like 600 pounds when he was at OU.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I was a coach, I'm going to be like, I'm going to use my quarterback strength, use his legs, get two guys behind him, and they're going to get a yard and, score for, you saw that stat that you just mentioned. And we're seeing more and more teams start to implement it, like Josh Allen. The Bills are like, okay, hey, we got a big quarterback too. Let's try to use that. And there's been no injuries directly related to this play. And if we were seeing a lot of injuries getting directly related to this play, then I think it should be reevaluated and maybe talked about being taken out, but I don't think it should. I think it's just another physical football play that should continue on.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point because that's kind of been the biggest argument. It's like it's putting quarterbacks in dangerous situations, and it's like, but yeah, you don't have to run this play. That's the thing. I think the teams have chose to. They've had success, and they have not had this injury problem. So I don't know exactly, how it's all going to work out, but for now, I'm definitely in favor of this staying around. It's a great play, and it's exciting to watch. So I definitely think it should stick around. So we are going to move on now and talk about women's basketball once again.
Hey UNT students! Looking for creativity and inspiration? The UNT Union Gallery invites you to experience artwork at the art exhibit from your own talented Eagle artists. This free exhibit features a rotating selection of incredible artwork from talented Mean Green artists. Don't miss your chance to experience creativity up close. Stop by anytime during union hours. Want to hear more from the artist yourself? Join us at the Ask and Eat reception, where you can dive deeper into the creative process and enjoy a good conversation over a bite to eat. Don't miss the latest exhibit at the UNT Union. Immerse yourself in the art, and be sure to explore the many other exciting exhibits rotating in throughout the semester.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Steven Lucero, joined by London Stewart and Nick Volpetti, and we're going to talk about the women's Final Four. Obviously, it's been an incredible March. We're already into April, but it's going to be really exciting to watch these teams. Number 1, UCLA, number 2, UConn, and then number 1, South Carolina, number 1, Texas. Some incredible teams. I mean, truly everything that you want to see is here, and it's just been incredible. Obviously, UCLA, UConn, big-time matchup. UConn, the non-number 1 seed, but I don't think that they're going to have too much trouble keeping up. Nick, how are you feeling about this matchup?
UConn, I mean, they really could just be a number 1 seed, couldn't they? It seems like there were 5 teams coming into this that were the 5 best teams, and UConn was unfortunately for them the one that didn't get the 1 seed, but they were able to pull through regardless of that. Paige Beckers, I mean, what more can you say about Paige Beckers that hasn't already been said? She had 31 points in that win over USC in the Elite Eight. Sarah Strong also shouldn't go unrecognized as well. She had 17 rebounds in that game. She's going to be so important on the glass for UConn, 22 points in that game as well. I mean, I have so much faith in this UConn team, and I think that they are basically a number 1 seed, even if they have that 2 next to their name.
Yeah, it's going to be great, but obviously UCLA is that number 1. London, how are you feeling about their ability to not only keep up, but maybe exploit some of the mismatches in this game?
Yeah, UCLA is going to have to really haul into Lauren. She has did great over this whole season, and UConn is going to have to, strategize around her, maybe adjust into a 2-3 zone. Sarah Strong, she's 6'2". She's the best freshman in the country, but she's 6'2". UCLA has a 6'7" center, but bringing Jana Elifi off the bench, she's 6'5". She can come in and help contain Lauren on the glass, but also trying to push her outside of the paint, not letting her get so deep under the basket as well. But UConn has did great over this game. 31 points, that's absurd. Versus USC, that's a very good game. But also UConn lost the rebound battle in that game. They can't do that in this game versus UCLA. They'll lose this game by far. But and Paige Becker, she started off kind of slow. She can't start off slow in this game. She has to come out, from the jump, scoring still. And she had a great defensive performance as well. People question her defense at times, but 4 steals, that's pretty good. Yeah. But personally, I'm going with UCLA in this game.
Okay, interesting, and it's going to be incredible to watch, obviously, all these matchups. But yeah, I want to talk a little bit more about Paige Beckers, because to me, this is more than just a game. This is more than just another Final Four. This is more than just another championship run for her, because through it all, through the injuries earlier in her career, she decided to stick around for this one last season, this sort of 5th year for her, and she's done just about everything you can do as a college, not only women's basketball player, but athlete. I mean, she's already had her jersey retired, put into the UConn Huskies Hall of Fame. It's been incredible what she's done, not only in this tournament, but just throughout her entire college career. And I just want to ask you guys, what does this game and this tournament, trying to get that elusive championship mean, not only, just for Paige Beckers and the UConn squad this year, but for overall legacy as one of the really greatest college athletes of this generation?
I think that it's really important for her to get that championship. Like, it's something that you'll always remember, as a college athlete, as long as she plays in the WNBA. I'm so excited to see her with the Dallas Wings, by the way.
Exactly.
But as long as she'll play in the WNBA, I think she'll always remember having that national championship. And if she can get that done, it just does so much for her legacy. We saw that with Caitlin Clark. She already had so much hype around her, just like Paige Beckers does, but it helped so much that she was able to get that championship. And for her sake, I'm hoping that she can do it and add to her incredible legacy already.
I mean, yeah, ending off on a high note is what a lot of college women's basketball players want to do. Some of them would opt out of the WNBA to try to have that chance at winning a national championship. As you stated, Stephen, having an injury early on in her career, but the past years, averaging 20 each year, getting retired into the UConn's Women's Basketball Hall of Fame is probably equally great as the Women's College Basketball Hall of Fame. So I feel like just in and out on a high note is a big thing that she wants to do. You see Caitlin Clark, she ended off on a loss, in the Final Four, but she was still the #1 overall pick and probably the best player to touch a basketball for women's. But in and out on a high note is going to be this big thing that's Caitlin Clark, Paige Beckers wants to do in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, Paige Beckers, I can't wait to see her with the Dallas Wings, but I know she's locked in on this tournament. 28 points per game, her steals, her blocks. I mean, everything. She has put it all out there on the line, and it's shown how much she wants it. So for me, I think that the superstar gets her championship. That's my prediction. But I want to ask you guys, obviously, South Carolina, Texas, a huge matchup real quick. London, who do you think wins this matchup?
I'm going to go with South Carolina in this game. This is their 3rd time overall meeting this season. I'm only going to say that because they did a great job in stopping Madison Booker in the previous games. Bria Bell, she's coming in, being that defensive presence as she's been all season. And also, South Carolina, stat sheet-wise, is deeper than Texas. Chloe Kitts, Malaysia Fulwiley, Joyce Edwards, who is leading their team. But you can look on there and see that she's averaging 12, but you see other players on the team, 10, 8. They're equally a great team, and they have fun playing basketball as well.
Yep, it's going to be an incredible matchup. Obviously, all of these games are going to be great, and we're in for an incredible championship game. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's really going to be fun to watch all of how these matchups unfold going forward into the weekend. But that's it for us here. Be sure to follow us on our social medias at NTTV Sports, and stay tuned for NTTV Nightly News.